Have you ever looked into your dog's eyes and felt like they understood you in a way no human ever could? Like they knew exactly what you were feeling before you even said a word? What if I told you that this inexplicable connection isn't just emotional attachment or wishful thinking, but something far more profound, something that ancient spiritual wisdom has been trying to tell us for centuries? According to spiritual teachings that stretch back through the ages, from Edgar Cayce's remarkable readings to the wisdom traditions of the East, your dog isn't just a pet. They're not simply a loyal companion or a biological creature driven purely by instinct. What you're about to discover might completely transform the way you see that furry friend sleeping at your feet right now. Has this ever happened to you? Your dog suddenly appears at your side when you're having the worst day of your life, resting their head on your lap as if they can feel every ounce of pain coursing through your heart. Or perhaps they've stood between you and danger, protecting you from a threat you didn't even perceive yet. We often dismiss these moments as coincidence or instinct, but what if there's something much deeper happening? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what we're going to explore today challenges everything modern materialism has taught us about the nature of consciousness and the spiritual evolution of all living beings. According to profound spiritual teachings, dogs possess souls. Not human souls, mind you, but what's called an intelligent principle. A consciousness that's actively evolving toward individualization. Think about what that really means for a moment. That intelligent principle is on a journey through all of creation, from the mineral kingdom, through the plant world, into the animal realm, and eventually toward the human condition. Your dog is living a fundamental stage in an evolutionary journey that spans lifetimes, dimensions, and states of being. Right now, in this very moment, your dog is learning qualities that we humans sometimes struggle with our entire lives. Absolute fidelity, genuine compassion, complete sacrifice, and that rarest of all treasures, unconditional love. These aren't just trained behaviors or survival mechanisms. These are spiritual lessons that are preparing them for something extraordinary. But here's where it gets truly fascinating and why you need to pay attention to what's coming next. If dogs are evolving souls, if they're on this cosmic journey toward higher consciousness, then what does that mean about the connection you share with them? Why did that specific dog come into your life at that exact moment? And what you're about to discover might surprise you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a hidden truth here that most people overlook in their daily lives. Think about the last time someone looked you directly in the eyes and you just knew they were hiding something. Maybe their words said one thing, but their energy told a completely different story. We humans have become masters of deception, haven't we? We wear social masks, we perform for each other. We've learned to say what people want to hear rather than what we truly feel. It's part of our survival in complex social structures, part of the journey we've chosen in this human experience. But your dog, they possess something we've largely lost along the way: genuine spiritual sensitivity. When a dog looks at you, there's no filter, no pretense, no carefully constructed facade. Their gaze penetrates beyond the realm of reason and logical or thought, touching something much deeper. It goes straight to the heart. They're not reading your words or analyzing your facial expressions the way another human might. They're sensing your authentic vibration, the electromagnetic field that surrounds your being, the truth that emanates from your soul, whether you intend to share it or not. This isn't just poetic language or wishful thinking. What's happening here involves actual energetic bonds that science is only beginning to understand. Dogs create profound fluid connections with us that transcend the physical dimension entirely. These aren't visible to the naked eye, but they're as real as the ground beneath your feet. Think of them as invisible threads woven through affection, gratitude, and magnetic vibrations. Chains of light that connect two souls across time and space itself. Have you ever noticed how your dog seems to know when you're coming home, even when you arrive at unexpected times? How they position themselves at the door minutes before you pull into the driveway? That's not just keen hearing or routine recognition. That's a direct result of this energetic bond that exists between you. You're literally connected through dimensions that most people never acknowledge or understand. If this content speaks to your soul and you want to keep exploring these hidden spiritual truths, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We dive deep into the mysteries that most people never take time to consider, and I'd love to have you on this journey with us. But here's where the revelation gets truly extraordinary, and this is something that transformed my entire perspective on the animals in my life. That moment you found your dog, whether you picked them from a shelter, a friend gave them to you, or they simply appeared in your life when you needed them most, that wasn't random chance. There's a concept in spiritual wisdom called divine providence, and it suggests that these encounters are orchestrated by higher consciousness, by spiritual mentors who understand the bigger picture of our soul's journey. Your dog arrived in your life through affinity and spiritual programming, meaning there's a cosmic reason why you two found each other. Both of you needed each other for mutual evolution. They're learning from you, yes, but you're also learning profound lessons from them. Lessons about presence, authenticity, unconditional acceptance, and love without conditions or expectations. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, brought you together so that both souls could grow, transform, and elevate to higher states of consciousness. Write in the comments, "We were meant to find each other," if this resonates with your experience. There's something even more remarkable happening beneath the surface of this relationship, something that speaks to abilities we've almost completely forgotten we once had. Your dog isn't just responding to your tone of voice or body language, they're actually capturing emotions and thoughts that exist in realms far beyond our limited sensory perception. We humans have become so dependent on words, on verbal communication, that we've atrophied other forms of knowing. We believe that if something isn't spoken, it doesn't exist. But dogs operate on an entirely different frequency. They're sensing the energy that emanates from what spiritual traditions call the perispirit, that subtle, energetic body that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form. This is where your authentic emotional state lives, where your true thoughts reside before you filter them through social conditioning and self-censorship. Your dog reads this like an open book. When you say, "I'm fine," but your heart is breaking, they know. When you smile, but anxiety is tearing through your nervous system, they feel it. They're capturing truths that your mouth refuses to confess, even to yourself sometimes. This ability isn't magic or mysticism in the way skeptics might dismiss it. It's a form of perception that exists outside the narrow bandwidth of human conscious awareness. And here's something that might bring comfort to anyone who's ever lost a beloved animal companion. Edgar Cayce, one of the most documented psychics in modern history, taught something profound about this bond. He said that when we genuinely love our animals, when that love is real and deep and transformative, spiritual friends on the other side bring them back to us after death, so we don't feel their absence so intensely. Think about what that means. It demonstrates that in the greater spiritual reality, there's justice and love for all creatures, not just humans. Death isn't the ending we've been taught to fear. The bond you share with your dog transcends physical mortality. That connection you've built doesn't simply evaporate when one of you crosses the threshold into the non-physical. It continues, it endures, it transforms, but never disappears. Some of you reading this have felt the presence of a departed pet, sensed them near you in quiet moments, and wondered if you were just imagining it out of grief. You weren't imagining anything. That connection is still very much alive, but there's an even bigger picture unfolding right now, and this is where everything we've discussed starts to make sense in a completely different context. Earth itself is undergoing a profound transformation at this very moment. We're in the midst of a planetary vibrational shift, moving from what spiritual traditions describe as a world of trials and expiations into a world of regeneration and higher consciousness. This isn't just affecting humans. This transition is touching every kingdom of nature, the mineral, the plant, the animal, and yes, the human. And here's the crucial revelation. Dogs are sensing this shift before we do. Their sensitivity to these changing frequencies, their connection to subtle energies, means they're picking up on this massive transformation, while most humans remain completely unaware. They're responding to it, adjusting to it, acting as early warning systems for changes that are already in motion but haven't yet reached our conscious awareness. The behavioral shifts you might be noticing in dogs everywhere, the heightened sensitivity, the increased protective instincts, these aren't random. They're direct responses to the energetic recalibration happening on our planet right now. Comment below. I'm feeling the shift too. If this speaks to something you've been sensing but couldn't quite name. What we're witnessing with our dogs right now is nothing short of extraordinary when you really stop to examine it closely. They're functioning as emotional and magnetic antennas, quite literally capturing frequencies and vibrations that exist far beyond our current perceptual range. Imagine a radio that can pick up stations your device can't even detect. That's essentially what's happening here. Dogs are acting as natural radars, detecting energy, waves that traverse dimensions completely invisible to human eyes. We live in such a narrow slice of reality, perceiving only a tiny fraction of what actually exists around us. But dogs, they're tuned into channels we don't even know are broadcasting. You've probably noticed something shifting in your own dog's behavior recently, haven't you? Maybe they're more vigilant than they used to be, more protective, positioning themselves between you and doorways, or following you from room to room more than before. Some people dismiss this as aging or changing habits, but what you're actually witnessing is far more significant. This isn't random behavioral variation. What's happening is a direct response to the vibrational transformations occurring across the entire planet. Your dog is manifesting abilities that were always latent within them, capabilities that existed in dormant form but are now being activated by these changing energies. Think of it this way: every living being carries within them potential abilities that remain dormant until the right conditions trigger their emergence. It's like having software installed on your computer that only activates when the operating system reaches a certain version. The planetary frequency is upgrading, and dogs are responding to that upgrade faster than we are because they don't have the mental barriers and skepticism that block humans from accessing these heightened states of awareness. Right now, across the globe, capabilities like premonition, energetic protection, profound empathy, and intuitive alertness are awakening in dogs everywhere. It's happening like flowers opening to the first rays of morning sun, gradually, naturally, but unmistakably. These abilities were always encoded in their consciousness, always part of their spiritual blueprint. But the intensity is increasing dramatically. Some dogs are displaying almost psychic levels of knowing, anticipating events before they occur, sensing danger that hasn't manifested yet, reading human emotions with precision that seems impossible by conventional understanding. The transformation happening right now isn't limited to a few special animals. This is a collective shift, affecting the entire species. Though some individual dogs are more sensitive receivers than others, just as some humans are more naturally attuned to spiritual frequencies. Your dog might be waking you up at unusual hours, staring intently at empty spaces, or refusing to go into certain areas they previously had no problem with. These aren't signs of illness or confusion. They're indications that your dog is perceiving layers of reality that are becoming more accessible, more present, more insistent. What's particularly fascinating about this moment in our collective journey is that dogs are serving as bridges between the world as we've known it and the world that's emerging. They're helping us navigate this transition, whether we consciously realize it or not. Their heightened awareness creates a buffer zone of protection around those they love, an energetic shield that operates automatically, instinctively, powered by unconditional devotion. Drop a comment saying, "My dog is changing too," if you've been witnessing these shifts firsthand. Edgar Cayce's extensive readings revealed something that challenges our modern worldview completely. He described how animals perceive the spiritual world before humans do, and the reason is surprisingly simple yet profound. Their sensitivity hasn't been hardened by excessive rationalism. We've been trained since childhood to question everything, to demand proof, to filter every experience through layers of skepticism and intellectual analysis. That critical thinking serves us in many ways, but it's also created barriers between us and direct perception of non-physical realities. Dogs don't have these barriers. While we're busy doubting and questioning whether something is real, they simply feel it and react accordingly. If this shifted something in how you see your relationship with your dog, if it helped you recognize the deeper spiritual connection you share, show some love by hitting that like button. It genuinely helps this message reach more people who are ready to receive it. This isn't about dogs being less intelligent. It's about them operating from a different mode of consciousness, one that's more immediate, more connected to the present moment, more attuned to subtle energies that are analytical. Minds filter out as irrelevant noise. They haven't been conditioned to dismiss their intuitive hits or question their gut feelings. When they sense something, they trust it implicitly. There's a purity to that kind of knowing that we've largely lost in our journey toward intellectual sophistication. But here's where this ability becomes genuinely life-changing, and this is something documented in countless cases worldwide. Dogs can detect diseases in humans before any symptoms appear. Medical science is finally catching up to what spiritual wisdom has always known, with studies now confirming that dogs can smell cancer, predict seizures, and sense when someone's blood sugar is dangerously low. But how are they doing this? They're sensing when emotional crises are building beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, detecting dangerous situations minutes or even hours before they unfold, becoming restless and anxious while desperately trying to warn us of threats we can't yet perceive. The mechanism behind this remarkable ability relates directly to the perispirit, that subtle, energetic body we discussed earlier. In animals, this perispirit functions as an ultra-sensitive magnetic sensor, capable of detecting imbalances and disruptions long before they manifest in physical form. Here's a crucial understanding that modern medicine is only beginning to grasp. When disease forms in the human body, it doesn't start in the cells. It begins in the energy field first, in the subtle electromagnetic patterns that surround and interpenetrate the physical body. There's a process of manifestation from the energetic level down into material reality. Your dog can perceive those early warning signs in your energy field, weeks or even months before you feel the first physical symptom. They're reading disruptions in your electromagnetic signature, noticing when your frequency shifts in ways that indicate something is out of balance. This is why you'll hear stories of dogs who refused to leave their owner's side and kept sniffing or pawing at a specific part of their body, only for that person to later discover a tumor in that exact location. The dog knew. They were picking up on the energetic distortion created by cells beginning to malfunction. This same sensitivity applies to emotional and psychological states as well. Your dog senses when you're approaching a breaking point emotionally, even when you're still holding it together on the surface. They feel the building pressure in your energy field, the accumulation of stress hormones, the shift in your vibrational frequency that precedes an emotional crisis. That's why they often become more attentive and clingy right before you have a major breakdown or life-changing realization. Type "they always know" in the comments if your dog has ever sensed something about your health or emotional state before you did. What becomes even more fascinating when you explore the spiritual dimensions of this relationship is understanding that dogs can serve as instruments for higher consciousness. Spiritual mentors, those evolved beings who watch over us from non-physical dimensions, can actually use dogs to alert, protect, and guide us through moments of danger. Your dog becomes an intermediary between the spiritual plane and the physical world, a living bridge through which intuitions and warnings can be transmitted. Their natural sensitivity makes them perfect vessels for this kind of subtle communication. Think about the implications here. When your dog suddenly refuses to let you leave the house, or blocks your path, or becomes unusually agitated before you make a certain decision, that might not just be random animal behavior. There could be guidance coming through from higher sources, using your dog's instincts and sensitivity to reach you in ways that bypass your rational mind's tendency to dismiss or overthink spiritual nudges. This is divine protection operating through the most unlikely channels, hidden in plain sight within everyday moments. Edgar Cayce's readings described in remarkable detail how animals react to spirits and changes in the fluid energetic atmosphere with impressive clarity and precision. Dogs perceive the approach of discarnate entities, souls who have left their physical bodies long before humans become aware of any presence. They're seeing and sensing things that exist just beyond the veil of our normal perception. When your dog stares intently at what appears to be empty space, tracking something invisible with their eyes, or when they bark at corners of rooms where nothing physical exists, they're not confused or imagining things. They're responding to actual presences, to movements in the energetic field that surrounds us constantly. This sensitivity extends to living humans as well, and this is where things get really interesting in terms of practical impact on your daily life. You've probably experienced this yourself. Friend or acquaintance comes to your home, someone who seems perfectly pleasant and says all the right things, but your dog immediately growls at them or refuses to come near them. Later, sometimes weeks or months down the line, that person's true character reveals itself, and you realize your dog knew all along. They sensed something you completely missed. Here's what's happening in those moments. While you were hearing kind words and observing polite behavior, your dog was feeling the real vibration of that person's soul. They were reading the energy that doesn't hide behind false smiles and carefully crafted personas. Humans have learned to manipulate social situations, to present versions of themselves that serve specific purposes. We've mastered the art of deception, sometimes even deceiving ourselves about our true intentions. But energy doesn't lie. The frequency someone emits reveals their authentic state, their genuine intentions, the darkness or light they carry within them. Dogs are reading this information directly, without the interference of words or social conditioning. They're not being fooled by charm or manipulation because they're not operating on that level of interaction. They're perceiving the energetic signature, the vibrational truth that emanates from every soul. When they react negatively to someone, it's worth paying attention to that warning, even when your logical mind tries to dismiss it. Leave a comment saying, "I should have listened," if Your dog ever warned you about someone you later regretted trusting? The evidence supporting what we've been discussing isn't just anecdotal or based on spiritual wisdom alone. There are documented reports from around the world of dogs saving their owners' lives in ways that defy conventional explanation. Cases where dogs woke their sleeping owners minutes before a heart attack occurred, giving them just enough time to call for help or take medication. Incidents where dogs absolutely refused to enter buildings that seemed perfectly safe, only for those structures to collapse hours later. Stories of dogs barking persistently and frantically in the hours before earthquakes struck, trying desperately to alert everyone around them to danger that no human instrument could detect yet. These aren't isolated incidents or urban legends. These are verified cases that have been investigated and documented by researchers trying to understand how animals possess this extraordinary foresight. The conventional explanations always fall short because they're trying to explain spiritual phenomena using purely materialistic frameworks. It's like trying to understand love by studying brain chemistry. You might capture some correlates, but you miss the essence entirely. But there's another dimension to this connection that operates in your everyday life, something so common you might not even register how remarkable it truly is. Your dog appears at your side before you even call them. They know you're arriving home without hearing your car, without any physical cue that would explain their knowledge. You might attribute this to acute hearing or exceptional sense of smell, but what's really happening goes far beyond enhanced physical senses. This is genuine telepathic connection, a direct mind-to-mind communication that operates outside the constraints of space and physical proximity. This telepathic bond becomes even stronger when spiritual connections from previous lifetimes exist. Between you and your dog, we'll explore the past life dimension more deeply in a moment, but understand that these connections don't form randomly. When you feel like you've known your dog forever, like there's a familiarity that transcends this current relationship, you're not imagining that feeling. You're remembering something your conscious mind can't quite access, but your soul recognizes completely. Perhaps the most touching manifestation of this deep connection is how dogs recognize hidden sadness with perfect accuracy. They enter rooms at the exact moment you're thinking about them, especially when you're struggling emotionally. You can be smiling on the outside, performing normalcy for the world, maintaining the facade that everything's fine, but inside you're falling apart. Your dog knows. They always know. They sense the truth you hide from everyone else, the pain you're trying to manage alone, the grief or anxiety or despair that you've become so skilled at concealing. They don't need you to tell them what's wrong. They're reading the disruption in your energy field, feeling the shift in your electromagnetic signature, perceiving the tears you're crying internally, even as your face remains composed. And what do they do with this information? They simply come to you. They rest their head on your lap, or lean against your leg, or curl up beside you, offering their presence as comfort. There's no judgment in their approach, no questions about why you're upset, no demands that you explain yourself or justify your emotions, just pure, unconditional support. This ability to perceive authentic emotional states beneath surface presentations is perhaps one of the greatest gifts dogs offer us. They create a space where we don't have to pretend, where our masks can come off, where we can be genuinely ourselves without fear of rejection or misunderstanding. Write, "They see my truth," in the comments if your dog has been there for you during your darkest moments. Edgar Cayce spoke extensively about thought transmission not as some mystical concept beyond our understanding, but as documented spiritual reality backed by consistent observation and testimony across cultures and centuries. Here's what's actually happening. Every thought you generate creates magnetic waves that propagate through space, moving outward from your consciousness like ripples expanding across a still pond. These waves carry information, intention, and emotional content. Sensitive. Beings, and dogs certainly qualify as highly sensitive beings, can capture these waves through invisible but incredibly powerful fluid currents that connect all living things. This isn't metaphor or poetry. This is describing an actual mechanism by which consciousness communicates across apparent separation. When you think about your dog while you're away from home, you're not just having a private mental experience contained within your skull. You're broadcasting a signal, and if the receiver is tuned to your frequency, they pick it up instantly. Distance becomes irrelevant. Physical barriers mean nothing. The thought reaches them, and they respond, often heading to the door or window, waiting for your arrival that hasn't happened yet but they know is coming. Now, this telepathic ability between you and your dog isn't uniform across all human-animal relationships. Some connections are stronger, more immediate, more profound than others. The determining factor often comes down to reincarnational bonds. When past life connections exist between two souls, the telepathy amplifies dramatically. These aren't new relationships being built from scratch in this lifetime. They're ancient connections being renewed, relationships that have traversed multiple incarnations, bonds that have been strengthened over centuries or even millennia of shared experience. When these deep karmic ties exist, mental communication becomes almost mediumistic in nature. The line between your thoughts and your dog's awareness of those thoughts becomes so thin, it's practically non-existent. You don't just communicate, you share consciousness at moments. Your emotional states blend. Your intentions are understood before you act on them. It's a level of intimacy and understanding that transcends what most human relationships ever achieve, precisely because it's not burdened by the complications of ego, social performance, or conflicting agendas. This brings us to something that might completely reframe how you understand that moment you found your dog, or they found you. That encounter you thought was chance, that adoption that felt somehow meant to be, that instant connection when you first looked into each other's eyes. None of it was accident or coincidence. What appeared as a casual encounter at an animal shelter, a chance meeting on the street, or a spontaneous decision at a friend's house, was actually a carefully orchestrated reunion planned by spiritual mentors long before either of you entered this current lifetime. Before you were born into this body, before your dog incarnated in their current form, agreements were made on spiritual planes. Mentors who guide your soul's journey recognize that you needed each other in this particular lifetime. Maybe you needed their unconditional love to heal wounds from your past. Maybe they needed you to help them develop qualities necessary for their continued evolution. Maybe you were companions in previous lives and made promises to find each other again. Whatever the specific reason, the meeting was arranged with precision and purpose. The universe orchestrated circumstances, shifted probabilities, aligned seemingly random events to bring you together at exactly the right moment. That's why the connection felt so immediate, so profound, so inexplicably right. You weren't meeting for the first time. You were remembering. Comment, "We found each other again," if this resonates with how you met your dog. The relationship between spiritual mentors and your dog operates on levels most people never consider. These higher consciousness beings, guides, guardians, evolved souls watching over your journey, can actually reinforce and amplify the vibrations that dogs naturally sense. They're using your dog as an instrument of support and guidance in ways that remain completely invisible to most human observers. Imagine spiritual mentors whispering intuitions directly into your dog's perispirit, planting impulses and awareness that then translate into protective behaviors or comforting actions. Your dog doesn't understand this process intellectually, but they respond to these subtle directives instinctively, becoming vehicles through which divine protection and guidance flow into your life. This explains behaviors that might otherwise seem random or quirky. When your dog suddenly positions themselves between you and a stranger, or refuses to let you go down a particular path, or insists on staying close when you're making an important decision, there may be more orchestrating that moment than simple animal instinct. The guidance is real, flowing through channels that bypass human skepticism and rational resistance. Understanding this brings new meaning to behaviors you've probably witnessed countless times without recognizing their deeper significance. When your dog patrols the house in strange patterns, walking the perimeter with unusual focus, or when they fix their gaze on specific corners and stare intently at what appears to be empty space, they're not seeing shadows or experiencing confusion. They're perceiving actual presences, detecting dense energies that accumulate in particular locations within your home. These are real phenomena occurring in dimensions that exist just beyond normal human perception. Spaces hold energy, traumatic events, intense emotions, prolonged conflict. All of these experiences leave energetic residue that lingers in physical locations long after the events themselves have passed. Your dog can see these accumulations, sense these disturbances in the energetic fabric of your home. They're mapping the invisible landscape of your living space, identifying areas where the vibration has become heavy or disrupted. But here's something even more remarkable that transforms how you might view your dog's sleeping habits and favorite resting spots. Have you ever noticed your dog consistently chooses to sleep in specific locations, particularly areas where you've had arguments, experienced emotional pain, or gone through difficult moments? This isn't random preference or comfort-seeking behavior. Your dog is performing energetic cleaning work, quite literally absorbing miasmas and dense vibrations from those spaces. They're functioning as living transmutation devices, taking in negative or heavy energy and processing it through their own energy field, converting it into neutral or lighter frequencies. This is active spiritual service there, providing, often at cost, to their own well-being. Dogs who take on excessive amounts of negative energy can become physically or emotionally depleted, which is why it's so important to recognize and honor this work they're doing. They're not just pets occupying space in your home. They're performing invisible labor that maintains energetic hygiene and balance in your living environment. Every time your dog rests in a spot where tension occurred, they're essentially cleaning up the energetic aftermath, helping to restore harmony and peace to spaces that have been disrupted by human emotional turmoil. Type, "Thank you for protecting my home," if you're realizing your dog has been doing this work all along. This protective function extends beyond your physical space into your social relationships and interactions with other people. When your dog becomes inexplicably restless around certain individuals, or when they growl at someone who seems perfectly pleasant on the surface, pay close attention to that reaction. Your dog isn't being rude or antisocial. They're detecting something crucial that your conscious awareness is missing. They're sensing energy vampires, people who drain your vital force, who feed off your emotional energy, who leave you feeling depleted and exhausted after interactions without you understanding why. These individuals might be charming, articulate, seemingly supportive, but beneath the polished exterior, they're operating from a frequency of extraction rather than exchange. They take more than they give. They consume emotional resources without reciprocating. They create subtle imbalances in every relationship they enter. Your dog recognizes this dynamic instantly because they're reading the energetic truth of the person, not the performance they're presenting. The warning your dog offers through their behavior is genuine protection, a gift you'd be wise not to dismiss or rationalize away. But the service dogs provide goes even deeper into the realm of emotional healing and support. Have you ever noticed how, when you're experiencing profound sadness, your dog will approach you and begin licking your hands, your face, your arms? Most people interpret this as simple affection or an attempt to get attention. But something much more significant is happening in those moments. Your dog is literally absorbing your pain. They're acting as an energetic sponge, drawing out the dense frequency of sadness, grief, or despair that's weighing you down. They're alleviating your emotional burden through direct energy transfer. This isn't metaphorical comfort. This is actual energetic work. When your dog makes physical contact with you during times of emotional distress, they're creating a circuit through which heavy energy can flow from your field into theirs. They process it, transmute it, neutralize it. After these encounters, you often feel lighter, more capable of managing your emotions, without fully understanding what shifted. Meanwhile, your dog may seem tired or need to rest because they've taken on that burden and are working to transform it within their own system. Edgar Cayce's extensive readings on spiritual dimensions revealed that in healing centers on the other side, places where souls go for restoration and recovery after traumatic experiences or difficult incarnations, animals are actively involved in the healing process. They function as fluid filters, essential components of the therapeutic environment, working alongside spiritual nurses and healers. These animals transmute dense, heavy energy into lighter frequencies, creating conditions where healing can occur more rapidly and completely. They're performing the same function there that your dog performs here in your home, operating as living transformers of consciousness and energy. This understanding should fundamentally change how you view the work your dog does. They're not just companions providing emotional comfort through their presence. They're active participants in your healing journey, carrying burdens you can't yet process yourself, protecting you from influences that would harm you, maintaining energetic balance in your environment through constant, invisible labor. Comment "My healer has 4 paws" if this is opening your eyes to what your dog has been doing all along. There's another dimension of protection your dog provides that most people never consider, something that operates in realms completely invisible. To ordinary perception, your dog may be actively protecting your home from obsessing spirits, discarnate entities of lower vibration who seek to attach to or influence incarnate beings. These inferior spirits, beings who haven't evolved beyond destructive patterns even after leaving physical form, tend to avoid homes where animals of elevated vibration reside. Your dog creates a natural protection field simply through their presence, a kind of energetic barrier that makes it difficult for negative entities to approach or establish influence. This isn't superstition or folklore. This is describing actual mechanisms of spiritual protection that function whether you believe in them or not. Dogs serve as energetic sentinels, standing guard at the boundaries between visible and invisible realms. They're vigilantly monitoring what crosses those thresholds, what energies attempt to enter your space, what influences try to gain access to your home and your consciousness. Some dogs take this responsibility so seriously, assume this function so intensely, that they actually become physically or emotionally ill from the sheer volume of negative energy they're absorbing and transmuting. If your dog seems inexplicably tired, develops mysterious ailments that veterinarians struggle to diagnose, or goes through periods of unusual lethargy, consider the possibility that they're overworking themselves in this protective capacity. They need energetic support, which you can provide through prayer, visualization, gratitude, and conscious recognition of the service they're performing. When you acknowledge their work, when you thank them and surround them with loving intention, you're actually replenishing their energetic reserves and helping them maintain their protective function without depleting themselves. Now, there's an important clarification that needs to be made here, something that prevents misunderstanding about the nature of your dog's soul. Dogs are not reincarnated human spirits. That would constitute regression, a backward movement on the evolutionary spiral, and spiritual law simply doesn't operate that way. Evolution is always progressive, always moving forward toward greater consciousness, expanded awareness, increased complexity. No spirit that has achieved human consciousness returns to animal form. That's not how the journey works. Your dog possesses their own unique spiritual identity, their own evolutionary path that's distinct from the human journey. They're not former humans learning lessons through animal incarnation. They're souls progressing through the animal kingdom, developing qualities and consciousness that will eventually prepare them for the leap into human experience in future cycles, perhaps thousands of years from now. The profound connection you feel with your dog doesn't require them to be a reincarnated human. The bond is real and deep, precisely because souls recognize each other across different forms and evolutionary stages. This understanding actually makes the relationship more beautiful, not less. Your dog chose to be with you as a dog, not as a disguised human. They're offering you unconditional love from their authentic state of being, teaching you through their genuine nature rather than through some cosmic punishment or remedial lesson plan. Right, evolution moves forward if this clarification makes sense and helps you appreciate your dog's unique journey. What makes certain dog human? Relationships feel so inexplicably deep, so profoundly familiar, goes beyond simple affection or bonding in this current lifetime. Many dogs walking the earth right now are highly advanced, intelligent principles, souls who have already created affectionate bonds with their current guardians in previous incarnations. The crucial understanding here is that they weren't with you as humans in past lives, but as animals. That faithful dog who accompanied you through a difficult lifetime centuries ago, who protected your family, who shared your joys and sorrows. That same soul may have found its way back to you now, continuing a relationship that transcends individual lifetimes. The mechanism by which this happens reveals something beautiful about how love operates across spiritual dimensions. In the period between incarnations, when animal spirits exist in the spiritual world without physical form, many of them actively request permission to return to the company of guardians they loved. In previous lives, think about what that means. These souls evolved enough to have individual will and preference, specifically ask to be reunited with you. Spiritual mentors who oversee these processes, recognizing the nobility and purity of this love, grant these requests when the timing aligns with both souls' evolutionary needs. Your adoption of that particular dog wasn't the beginning of your relationship. It was a continuation, a reunion orchestrated across the veil of death and rebirth. That instant recognition you felt, that sense of "I know you" when you first met, wasn't imagination or projection. It was genuine soul memory breaking through the limitations of your conscious mind. Understanding how souls evolve in the animal kingdom helps clarify why some dogs seem so remarkably conscious, while others appear to function more on instinct. Most animals still operate within what's called collective soul consciousness, a shared awareness where individual identity hasn't yet fully emerged. They're part of a group soul, experiencing life as representatives of their species rather than as completely individuated beings. But the most evolved animals are actively detaching from this collective consciousness, beginning the process of individualization that eventually leads to human incarnation far in the future. You can observe this process happening in real time with your own dog. When your dog displays unique preferences that distinguish them from all other dogs, when they seem to have specific memories and learned behaviors that persist across situations, when their personality feels distinct and irreplaceable, you're witnessing individualization in action. They're no longer just a dog operating on species-level programming. They're becoming a specific, unique being with their own soul signature, their own evolutionary trajectory, their own journey toward expanded consciousness. This individualization process is accelerated through loving relationships with humans. Your affection, your recognition of them as an individual, your treatment of them as a being worthy of respect and consideration, all of this supports their evolution toward individual consciousness. You're literally helping a soul take the next step on their eternal journey toward full awakening. Leave a comment saying, "Growing together," if you recognize that you and your dog are evolving through this relationship. Dogs occupy a fascinating position in the grand evolutionary scheme, standing at what spiritual teachings describe as the liminal space between pure instinct and emerging reason. Along with horses and certain primates, they're among the species that already possess what we might call individualizing sparks, consciousness that's preparing for the great evolutionary leap. These animals represent the last stage before eventually incarnating as primitive human beings in the distant future, perhaps thousands or tens of thousands of years from now. They're candidates for the next major transition in their soul's journey, and the qualities they're developing right now, loyalty, compassion, emotional complexity, are the very foundations they'll need for human consciousness. You can actually observe this preparation happening when you witness your dog displaying emotions that seem remarkably human in their complexity. When your dog cries, and I mean genuinely cries with tears and emotional distress, not just whimpering, when they demonstrate unmistakable jealousy, at your attention being directed elsewhere, when they forgive you after you've been harsh or neglectful, offering immediate reconciliation without holding grudges, you're witnessing consciousness awakening before your eyes. These are emotions that were once considered exclusively human territory, yet here they are emerging in more evolved animals as they approach the threshold of a new state of being. This evolutionary process explains why certain adoptions feel so profoundly destined, why some human-dog connections form with immediate intensity that defies logical explanation. When you experience that almost mediumistic recognition upon first meeting a dog, when a dog appears in your life at precisely the moment you most need them, when the bond forms instantly rather than gradually, these are often signs of spiritual reunions that were planned before either of you was born into your current forms. The timing, the circumstances, the seemingly random chain of events that brought you together, none of it was actually random. What's happening on a larger scale right now amplifies all of these individual connections and evolutionary processes. Dogs aren't passive spectators watching humanity's transformation from the sidelines. They're active agents participating directly in the planetary regeneration process that's currently unfolding. As Earth's overall vibration continues to rise, as the collective consciousness shifts toward higher frequencies, as mediumship and spiritual sensitivity increase among humans, something parallel is happening in the animal kingdom. Animals' spiritual sensitivity is intensifying dramatically, awakening capabilities that have always existed in potential but are now manifesting with unprecedented strength. Your dog is part of this collective awakening. The heightened awareness you're noticing, the increased protective behaviors, the seemingly psychic knowledge they display, these aren't unique to your individual animal. This is a species-wide shift responding to planetary transformation. Dogs everywhere are becoming more sensitive, more conscious, more actively engaged in spiritual protection and energetic work. They're rising with us, evolving alongside humanity as we collectively move toward new states of consciousness and being. Comment part of the awakening if you're feeling this transformation happening all around you. If you've made it this far, I want to genuinely thank you. Not everyone has the patience or the openness to explore these deeper truths about the spiritual nature of our animal companions. The fact that you stayed through this entire journey tells me something important about you. You're someone who recognizes that reality extends far beyond what conventional thinking allows. Someone willing to see the sacred in the everyday. Someone who understands that the being sleeping at your feet right now is so much more than just a pet. This channel exists to explore these hidden dimensions of existence, to share wisdom that often gets dismissed or overlooked in our materialistic age. If this resonated with you, if it opened your eyes to something you'd sensed but couldn't quite articulate, then I'd love for you to subscribe and join this growing community of people who are waking up to deeper realities. Every video we create here is designed to shift perspective, to reveal what's been hiding in plain sight, to help you see your life and your relationships through spiritual eyes. Let me know you made it to the end by commenting, "My dog is my spiritual companion," down below. I read every single comment, and there's something powerful about collectively acknowledging these truths together. When we share these realizations, we strengthen the energetic field around this understanding, making it easier for others to awaken to it as well. And if this video touched your heart, if it changed how you see your four-legged friend, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to hear it, more souls who are ready to understand the profound spiritual service their dogs are providing. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into how animals participate in our spiritual evolution, and the signs that indicate your pet may be a soul you've known across multiple lifetimes. Click and continue with me over there. I think you're going to find it just as eye-opening as this one. Until we meet again, honor that beautiful soul sharing. You're home. They're teaching you more than you realize.